We're living longer than ever before. But here's the big question. Are we living better? More years on the clock don't mean much if those years are spent in pain, weakness, or frustration. What if there were simple, science-based ways to stay stronger, more mobile, and more purposeful well into your 50s, 60s, and beyond? Welcome to the Aging Well podcast, where we explore the science, stories, and strategies behind living a longer, healthier, and more purposeful life. I am your host, Dr. Jeff Armstrong, an exercise physiologist with a passion for making science simple and life better as we age. My guest is Heath Jones, founder of Active Ageless, a network of fitness facilities across Australia serving adults 50 plus. With a unique background in nursing, military field medicine, and exercise science, and on his own journey overcoming spinal surgeries and chronic pain, Heath brings both expertise and personal experience to the conversation about aging well. Together, we'll discuss the difference between longevity and health span and how movement, mindset, and purpose can transform your quality of life as you age well. The Aging Well podcast encourages informed decision-making and always consult your physician and scientific literature when making decisions about your health. Welcome to the Aging Well podcast. Let's start by having you tell us about yourself and the journey that brought you from becoming a health and mobility coach and helping people to age well.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me. So my name's Heath. I'm the founder of Active Ageless here in Australia, where we have several gyms specialising for over 50s. And what brought me to this, I started off my career many moons ago as a registered nurse. I was working primarily in emergency department. I then spent time in the Australian Army and spending about 10 years on the oil rigs as a medic or a nurse. And I was involved in the Healthy Life programs and what out there and whatnot. And I'd always had the dream or the desire to focus my exercise science on older adults. And I talked about it for many, many years. And I finally pulled the trigger a few years ago, or about 5 years ago, when you may remember a thing called COVID-19, when the whole world got turned upside down. So I tried to open my first gym on, it would have been March 2020, but the world had other ideas. So, we eventually opened at the end of 2020. And, that too, it was a struggle to open for the first couple of years, given the demographic that we target and whatnot. And thankfully I didn't give up. And since then we've rolled out to a few locations with a couple more in the pipeline now. So having fun doing what we're doing. We really specialize in that demographic, but not only just the exercise component. We really have a big push towards education and whatnot, bringing people together with, different specialties and whatnot that all, I suppose are all, concerned with healthy aging and whatnot, and trying to allow people to live their best life possible.
So you often talk about the difference between longevity and health span. I think that's what I want to really focus on today, is because I think we probably share the same viewpoints in terms of how those terms are used. But why do you think so many people confuse the two words?
I suppose the word health span has probably only really come about in the last few years, or in mainstream media anyway. So we've always known about lifespan, which is essentially how long the average person lives for, or how long, you're going to live for. The word health span is how many years we have being relatively healthy, in the absence of disease or some type of where we become incapacitated to the point that we can't really do a lot, can't really enjoy our lives. So, it's all well and good. We know with doing the right things, diet in check, mental health in check, physical activity, we can increase our lifespan. We want to also increase those healthy years, that we can still do things, still be engaged in the community, still, do what we want to do with the family, do what we, be involved in our chosen sporting and leisure activities and whatnot. So we want to be able to continue to do those for as long as we can, really. So, and that's kind of why when we do exercise and whatnot for this age group, we don't just train to say, lose weight or look good at the beach kind of thing. It's that functionality of those transferable exercises that allow people to continue to remain independent. Like I said, if they want to, continue to surf or play golf or tennis or whatever, we train people for those kind of movements so they can keep doing those activities for, hopefully many, many more years.
So from your experience, what are the biggest barriers that are keeping people from improving their health span after the age of 50?
Just starting. Yeah, it sounds pretty simple, but it is an actual fact. And look, we get it. Some people for, years, decades, maybe forever, have not really done a lot of physical activity or have not really focused on their health. They've been very family orientated, been selfless with children and whatnot, been professionally orientated and really focused on a career, or, especially we see in Australia, it's very multicultural here. We have a lot of people from certain parts of the world, probably never really had physical education, even at school. So, they've never really done any exercise. And thankfully now we do see a bit of a mindset shift towards understanding the importance of physical activity. So we do, some of the biggest barriers is just that they haven't really been doing it. And you think about, I could only really imagine, because I've always exercised, and, probably yourself too, is that you've always done something. But if you've never done anything, if you're taking on a brand new endeavor, whatever that may be, it is daunting. It is intimidating. You go to a certain place and everyone's quite proficient and competent and you're not. So it's quite intimidating. So that's what we do. We try to break those barriers down and make people really feel comfortable at any age and any level of experience, really, whether they've, been exercising their whole life or whether this is day one for them. So it's an extremely daunting and tough thing to do. And I applaud anyone that, takes their first, footstep inside a gym, over the age of 50. It's awesome. And I'm so happy and proud of the people that do that, because it's, they're going to make a big difference to their life.
Yeah, I've started teaching with my students because we've always kind of pushed the idea, you got to find your why to exercise. And it's like, that works fine. But most people know why they need to exercise, but it's what's keeping them from exercising. And so I'm really stressing a lot more with my students is you got to ask the question, why not? What's your why not? Why are you not exercising?
Yeah, so true. I'm a big believer in the why as well. And even if you need to write that down, put it on your fridge. And we ask people when we do a bit of a goal setting session with them, what is your why? Whether it's you want to, stick around for your grandchildren for, several more years, or, you want to still continue to play golf or whatever. And you got to make that why so powerful that I suppose it, negates any why nots. It is hard, or it can be hard, waking up first thing in the morning, if it's cold or it's wet or you're a little bit sore, achy or tired, you don't want to go and exercise. So that is the why not. Or you just know that you feel, like I was saying before, you do feel a little bit out of sorts when you start an exercise program. So that's your why not. It's very, very easy to choose your why nots. Human beings are intrinsically lazy. We're designed to be lazy. So it's very easy. You and me, when we train, we can think of 10 reasons why not to exercise, but you only really need one reason to exercise, and that has to be powerful though.
So your work focuses pretty heavily on mobility. How do you define functional movement? I know we can go back and forth on kind of how that phrasing is used in different situations, but why is functional movement so critical for aging well?
Yeah, great question. I think functional movement is preparing us for the activities of daily living. So once again, I'll go back and say how we train people to be able to play tennis or pick whatever for many, many more years ahead. However, functional mobility and functional fitness also could be picking up a small child. We teach people to pick up, a weight with extended arms. with good posture, good technique to minimize that chance of injury. It could be moving a pot plant in the garden, could be lifting up heavy shopping bags and carrying them up, a flight of stairs or whatnot. So I think functional mobility, I always say that, yes, I wouldn't say primarily, but we have a big focus on strength. But it's almost like there's no point being strong if you can't move. And the flip side of that is no point being excessively mobile if you don't have the strength to control those movements. So you really need a healthy balance of the two.
So what are just a few kind of small, practical daily habits that people can start today to improve their strength and mobility? What do you recommend to your clients?
Well, for starters, just simply get moving. I mean, how do you walk? How do you run a marathon? It's you're starting that first kind of step, as the saying goes. So I always say to people, if you don't walk every day, you need to start. And quite often when we see people that want to come in and start an exercise program with us, if they don't have that daily habit of walking, I always tell them to start, 3 to 4 days a week, several thousand steps each time they go for a walk. So, and it just, yes, walking is actually a good mobility exercise. You get the cardiovascular fitness component to it, which is good. But it's also that habit formation, which is just so important if we're starting an exercise program, just to stick to something. Because, as we both know, that it's so important to be consistent. So if you can get somebody in that train of thought that they need to be doing something pretty much every day for their body, then it's it's just starting, and you can progressive overload. You don't need to, go into a gym and start lifting heavy weights straight away. But just start basic walking, and then this is if you've never really done anything before, but if you have, you can, depending on who you are and where you are with your current level of physical capacity, but even just start with a few bodyweight squats. Just that they are a strength exercise, but they're also a really good mobility exercise as well. So to do it properly, ideally you would want someone who has a bit of experience that can show you how to do them properly, whether it's a trainer or a friend or someone else that has a bit of experience with exercise. But yeah, you can start simply, whether that's in a group exercise class, especially if you can find one out there for mature adults, would be ideal, and someone who understands the potential constraints and limitations that the aging adult can have. But I just can't stress the importance of, when you do start, you've got to continue. It is, it's absolutely important. It absolutely breaks my heart when I hear some people that, they get to 60, 70 years of age and they say, I'm just too busy to exercise now. I'm like, this is, you've done so well now, you can't stop. You should be doing this every day if you want the best life and the most independent and enjoyable life possible.
Yeah, I think there's a certain mentality out there that you hit a certain age, you're not supposed to exercise anymore. You're not supposed to do certain lifts, or you're supposed to do different exercises. But it's really about doing all that you're capable of doing in your present situation and trying to do more. If you're enjoying the Aging Well podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, or follow on your favorite platform so you will never miss an episode. And if you find our conversations helpful, please share the podcast with a friend, because aging is something we're all doing, and we're better at doing it together. And support our guests in this podcast financially by visiting the affiliate links in the episode description below, and use the links or codes provided for discounts on products we have vetted and feel comfortable recommending to our valued viewers and listeners. Thank you, and now back to the podcast. So how do you approach exercise different for someone who's dealing with chronic pain or recovering from injuries?
Yeah, sure. So I would say there's always something for somebody. There's always an exercise that can be prescribed or given to somebody regardless of what they have, what condition they have, what limitations they have, what pain they have. I mean, you and I both had injuries before, and I know I've had my fair share of injuries spending time in the military and whatnot, but I know how to work around my pain. There's always something you can do. I've had multiple back operations, including a spinal fusion and whatnot. I was told by many, many well-meaning health professionals not to do anything, but I'll push myself far beyond what the majority of people do. But that's just me, and I know my limitations. And another really important thing I think for individuals is you can't outsource your health 100%. It's great to have an exercise physiologist or a trainer or a doctor or a physio, whoever, but you also need to understand your own body. You also need to understand, what you should and shouldn't do, what things aggravate an injury. If you have an injury at the time, what level is that? Is it at the point where you can actually start moving that part of your body again? If you have a bit of a frozen shoulder, maybe it's at the point where you can actually start doing, some reduced range exercises and whatnot. Again, I think there's pretty much always, in the absence of a really acute injury, there's pretty much always something that we can do.
Yeah, I appreciate that philosophy. That's kind of where I'm at. It's like, if you're injured, somebody say, well, I can't go to the gym because I sprained my ankle. Well, you can still bench press, you can do rows, you can, maybe do arm work on a cardiovascular piece of equipment. There's things that we can always do to manage not aggravating that injury, but getting the rest of our body healthy as we heal.
Yeah.
And so, have your injuries played any role really in shaping your philosophy on aging well?
Yes, they 100% have. It's one of the reasons why I did start Active and Ageless. I remember years ago, it was probably around the time I did get out of the military when, probably around the time I had my third back operation, when I was told to pretty much hang up the boots, and you go through a massive state of depression for a period of time, because I've always been extremely active, training and surfing and rock climbing and boxing and skateboarding, everything. And I was told I could never really do any of these again. So yeah, it was heartbreaking to hear that. Like I said, I think sometimes the most well-meaning people, especially when it comes from certain professionals, it's probably protecting them more so than us. They probably don't understand that there's still something you can do. And thankfully I did have a really good team of physios around me at the time, and some that did believe in me and didn't believe that I should, essentially hang up the boots and not do any exercise for the rest of my life. So we worked through it. We worked through it a lot. It was a massive mind hurdle for me to get to the point where I thought I could actually do quite a few of the things with restrictions, to a few of the activities and sports and that I wanted to do. And then I got to the point where when I was able to, do a lot of those again, I'm like, there's going to be so many other people out there that haven't spent years and years and learning about their body, but they've just kind of almost waved the white flag and said, I'm out. I'm going to live a life of pain. I'm going to live a life of, analgesic pill popping and that simply to get through the day. And I don't think that, that's the way. I think there's always, or quite often, there's a lot we can do. So I thought I'd, I kind of continued my studies. And then, I thought I'd put that into practice by helping other people believe that they are more physically capable than what they are quite often.
So you've alluded to this a little bit, but what role does mindset play in staying active and independent later in life? And what do we do to shape that in older adults?
Yeah, great question. And you look, it's so important. I mean, I always talk to people and tell them about the triad of health. And, you got your three main components to that, which is one side you've got your nutritional component, the other side you've got your physicality or your physical fitness, and then the other side is your mindset side of things, or your mental health. And look, it's extremely important. It's very hard to have two without that second one. You can't have the nutrition and the physical component without having the mindset, or you can't have a great mindset and be really physically active if you're eating really poorly. So mindset is extremely important. And look, as we age, I suppose it is something that you have to accept. You may not be able to lift as much or run as fast, or squat down as deep, or lift certain things over your head quite as well. But I think a bit of a personal saying of mine is live life to the fullest at any age. So there is certain ages and stages of life where things change, but I suppose Yeah, it's just that self-belief, and it is hard at times, and that's why sometimes it really is good to have a group of friends or a trainer that can believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. Because we're going to all have those times at any age. You have those times of self-doubt, and you don't think you can, you don't think you can do what you really want to do. But it's just that constant self-belief, and I like to get role models around me, whoever they may be, people that have been there before me. I have one of my favourite surfers from the US. He's had a spinal fusion, and I follow him pretty closely, and he was able to get back to an extremely high level of surfing. So he was always my inspiration. So I think role models are important as well, whoever that may be in whatever form that may be.
So you kind of mentioned these a little bit, but beyond movement, what nutritional or lifestyle habits do you see making the biggest difference in your clients?
I think, once again, having an understanding of what foods work for you, what foods don't work for you. I have nowadays a pretty strict, would you say, diet, and that works for me. I generally try to eat quite low inflammatory foods. I am a proponent of that. I do teach people, especially if they're trying to lose weight, to, whether they need to see a dietitian or a nutritionist to understand their calorie intake, what they should be taking, should be consuming on a daily basis for, the whole calorie in and calorie out. But for me, I have a personal saying, and I've had this for many, many years now, where I eat 80 to 90% of the time for nutrition. So I think one of the things that we have an issue with nowadays is that people, every meal that they have has to taste amazing. Now, when I eat 80 to 90% of the time, it's for performance and nutrition. It doesn't have to taste bad. It doesn't have to have all the, the trimmings and whatnot, because generally speaking, that's full of fat or full of sugar or processed foods and whatnot. So, nice. I have a very clean diet. I try to, just eat a lot of whole foods. It works best for me. It gives me the best energy. I practice a bit of intermittent fasting, a couple of days a week. Not that I do that for weight loss. I'm pretty happy with my weight, but I do find practicing intermittent fasting, mixing that with a bit of low inflammatory food. I don't eat a lot of carbohydrates. I still have energy. And I feel as though with a low sugar or low carbohydrate diet, my aches and pains do feel significantly better.
Active and Ageless is your organization. It isn't about just exercise, it's about community. Why is it important for health after 50 to remain connected with other individuals?
Yeah, so going back to the triad of health, we've got that mental health component to it. And I think a lot of people come to my gyms now not even to do exercise. It's almost the exercise component is almost secondary. But as long as they're going there, they're hanging out with their friends and they're doing the work, they're doing the exercise. So, a lot of our people, over 50%, are either, fully retired or partly retired, so they don't have that same camaraderie that they would do in a work environment anymore. So it's good to have that. Some of them are single now as well, so it's good to kind of get in there and spend some time with other like-minded individuals. And the vast majority of our people are there for the same reason. They're there because they want to be physically fit and to live their best life possible. So it's really important. Community is massively important. So when I know myself, sometimes when I work from home too much, you're like, I just need that, that social environment. And that's why I like to do group classes myself at other, gyms and whatnot, just to get that social cohesion. Human beings are designed to be a part of a tribe. So community is huge, and it gives us purpose. It meeting new people. It's great to see that people, in their 50s, 60s and 70s are forming, new friendships, which is really good. And it's really special to be part of that as well.
What have you learned about the kind of emotional and social side of aging from leading this network?
I think understanding for people that, it is a bit of adapting, a bit of understanding that, there's certain things you may or may not be able to do anymore. So it's that kind of, a bit of an acceptance, I suppose. especially if there's a certain kind of chronic diseases that come into play and whatnot, and once again, we just want to kind of be there for people to kind of show them that, there is certain things associated with aging that may not be the end of the world, because you can combat a lot of those things, and you can really, lead a fantastic life. It's as long as you get everything, you're doing the right thing. I don't think there should be such a negative connotation associated with aging. We're all going to get old, and you may as well, if you've got, many more years after your retirement, you may as well set yourself up the best you can to really enjoy that. I mean, I think life's precious to me. I love it. I don't have any fear around aging. I believe, whatever age I am, I'm going to enjoy it the best I can for that period of time. And I'm hoping, we can kind of teach that for other people as well.
For listeners who are feeling overwhelmed, where should they start?
Just start. I think sometimes, surely amongst their network, they must know, a couple of people that either go for a walk or they do some form of exercise. And, if they were to reach out to them, I'm sure that person would love them to have another walking partner or exercise partner. Find a group exercise facility in your, in your neighborhood. That's really important, especially if you want someone to actually, help you along your journey and help you with, with your exercises and exercise programming or whatnot. But be also aware that you're not alone. Like I said, it is extremely daunting and intimidating to walk into, a certain gym environment. You've got a lot of people that are maybe young or fit or whatever, a bit kind of dominating in there, and just be aware that you're not alone. Everyone feels like that when they first walk in. And like I said, I really applaud everyone when they take that first step. And, if you come into one of our locations, you're always welcome, by our trainers and managers with open arms. You've made the first step, and, the first step is always the hardest.
Okay. So you've alluded to this a little bit throughout, but this is a question I ask of all my guests, and you're obviously a fit individual. You've gone through a number of different setbacks in life with, your back surgeries and things like that. But what are you doing now personally to age well?
Great question. I think I'm my own experiment there. So, look, I train. It's been a little bit different in the last few months because I've been going so much between cities, but I set my week up. I generally know what day of the week I'm training and what type of training I am doing. And it might sound a little bit OCD, but it's not. I set up my, like I said, with my food, I have my weekly diet, and that's pretty much week by week, and it doesn't get boring. And it's the same thing with my exercise. Pretty much Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll do my strength training. I do a run on Tuesday, and Thursday I'll do some other form of cardio. I'll do a bit of flexibility every day. I do quite a bit of foam rolling as well, and my surfing and boxing, all those kind of active leisure activities. I just slot them in whenever I can. So I try to be reasonably strict with my training, because I know that life is pretty easy to get in the way. Once again, it's pretty easy to make an excuse why I don't want to train tomorrow. I can't train tomorrow. I shouldn't train tomorrow. I'm a little bit sore. I'm a little bit busy or whatever. However, I know if I procrastinate and put that off, I'm not going to feel good. If I don't feel good, I'm not my best. If I'm not my best, I'm not my best for other people, for my members, my family and whatnot. So I think I always say to people, schedule in your exercise. And I think this is so important. You schedule in your exercise every Monday at whatever time, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., or whatever it may be, every Wednesday or whatever your days are. Try and schedule them in as best you can. Look, I know life does get in the way, things pop up and you have to attend to, but if you can pretty much stick to a schedule, it just makes you want to try and make life revolve around that. So if your friend, rings you up and says, hey, let's catch up, want to go for a coffee at 9 o'clock Monday morning, sorry, that's my exercise time. Can you do 10 o'clock? Otherwise I can do Tuesday. So once again, it's pretty easy to make excuses. Why not? But if you can kind of, to a certain extent, set your training program in stone, that is your best chance of, consistency and that structure with your training program.
I think that's a great example, and I appreciate that. So what is one simple daily habit everyone over the age of 50 could begin today to age with strength, clarity, and purpose?
With strength, clarity, and purpose. I always say find a like-minded individual, because, they do hear it quite often nowadays. You are the average of your 5 closest friends, or the 5 people that you spend most time with. So I think it's really important to, get around other people that you can, support each other, help each other. And so get in a group environment. And if you don't have people that are interested in the same things as you or want the best, maybe you should, try to find those people. I think it's really important to, have that kind of accountability. I know there's times that I probably haven't wanted to exercise, but I've organised to train with a mate of mine, so I'll never let them down. So I'll always make sure I'm there. So yeah, and just like I said, just get started. Your body will thank you for it. But the first if you're starting an exercise program for the first time ever, the first 6 to 8 weeks are always the hardest. Your body's adapting. You're starting to feel a little bit sore. You may lack energy initially, but after that first 6 to 8 weeks, you do actually start feeling a lot better. You sleep better, you're happier, you start to feel a bit more tighter and more toned, and you start to crave better foods, and, other people start noticing you kind of just have that extra glow about you, and you will just generally feel better and, be living a far better life.
So is there anything we missed talking about today? I feel like we could probably dive down a bunch of different rabbit holes because, you know a lot about exercise. We're both passionate about exercise and aging. But anything that we haven't talked about that you really want to touch on in this conversation?
I'd like to ask you what type of exercise you're doing now.
So turn it back on me. So the type of exercise it's been a challenge over the last year, just because the podcast has become so busy, trying to manage scheduling interviews and getting my exercise in, and trying to, I work in a teaching position that's about an hour, 10 minutes or so from where I live, and I have to take my daughter to school. So time has gotten in the way a little bit, and I'm be the last one to say that time is an excuse for not exercising. I'm not quite doing as much as I'd like. My ideal would be, I like to do about 10 to 12 exercise sessions per week. I like to compartmentalize things. So for me, strength training is the priority, because I'm trying to maintain as much muscle mass. And I know from experience and just observing the world that if I don't maintain muscle strength, I'm not going to be able to do as much cardio. I won't be able to do as much activity. And so that's going to cause my heart function to decline. So strength is a priority. I don't go overboard. I have a gym in my own garage, so I don't have an excuse that I can't make it to the gym or anything. It's right downstairs. So I typically do the basic movement patterns. I call it the basic 5. So across the week, I'm going to be doing some type of squatting motion. I'm really big on the Zercher squat lately because it just targets so much of the body, and it's such a functional movement in terms of being able to lift something heavy up off the ground, maintaining my spine without having to overload, doing back squats and compressing the vertebra. So I do a lot of Zercher squats. I do some form of a hip hinge. I don't deadlift anymore, with a straight bar, just because that's been horrible on my back, but I'll use like a hex bar for that.
Trap bar.
I do some form of benching. I've got some shoulder issues, so pressing movements have been a bit more challenging, so I got to be careful with that. I might do a little bit more blood flow restriction training to unload the joints a little bit more, but still load the muscle. And then I do, I prefer doing pulling movements over pushing movements. Unlike most American teenagers that go to the gym and the first thing they do is the bench press.
Same as
That's
Australia.
really kind of the last exercise I do. So I'm more into, doing some rows, some pulls, some pull-ups, pull downs. And
that's so good for your posture as well.
I don't do a lot of arm curls. Yeah, I don't do a lot of like arm curls or, arm work because time's a factor. I also, when I do what I do for ab work and what I'd call core, because I consider the core being everything, that link of muscle and fascia that run from the neck all the way down under your feet and back up to the neck, to the base of the skull. I consider all that to be the core. So I don't do a lot of crunches and that kind of stuff, but I really love the Bulgarian bag. So I do a lot
Yeah, they're
of
good.
spin movements with that, really work on the core. So that's kind of one of my major core areas. Cardio wise, we have a treadmill. So I've been using the treadmill a lot more, trying to get out and walk the dogs more often. We have 2 dogs. We have a 4-year-old border collie that's super hyperactive. So, I mean, I could walk her all day and she wouldn't tire out. And then we have about a 9-year-old yellow lab. She might be 10 now, but she's getting really old. She's got some hip dysplasia, so she won't walk anywhere. I mean, barely get her to walk outside to go to the bathroom. So I can't walk her anymore. And I used to walk them individually, and neighbors would always ask me, it's like, don't they like to walk together? It's like, well, they do, but I get twice as much walking if I walk them individually.
Yeah.
And so now I kind of doubled up on when I'm walking the border collie so that I still get that same amount of walking, because it's usually about a 3-mile walk if I walk the 2 loops that we have in the neighborhood. And so that's mostly what I'm doing exercise wise. I try and keep it as effective and as efficient as possible. Nutritionally, I'm really working on trying to find what's going to work the best for me as I age. Like yourself, I really lean into a more anti-inflammatory diet. I'm trying to eat a lot more plant-based. I'm not sure where I fall on that. I'm really struggling with the meat versus no meat in terms of aging well. Protein levels. I do believe protein is essential. I don't overdo the protein. I'm trying to eat a little bit less meat, but more legumes lately, a lot more, definitely more vegetables, and significantly decreasing alcohol consumption, trying to keep that really to a minimum. And mostly just, that's kind of the physical side. For the more spiritual, emotional, intellectual side and everything, I'm trying to read more. I journal, a lot more kind of mindful practices to maintain that. I think probably the area where I struggle the most is trying to find the best socialization, trying to be socially connected. Now, one thing, this podcast does help me with that. I mean, you're in Australia, I'm in Portland, Oregon. We're talking across the country, so I'm able to connect with people, but it still, to a certain degree, lacks that 3-dimensional, close, personal, your energies are interacting in the same room kind of social connection.
Yeah.
And teaching, I'm only in the classroom really less than 9 months out of the year. So we have a couple of weeks away before we're back in the classroom. That always helps me kind of with aging well and keeping active, because I teach exercise science and I'm teaching the young kids. So I have to be fit so that they get a good example.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one of my inspirations for, trying to remain more fit. And I was late having kids. I'm 62. My son just turned 20, my oldest, and the youngest is 17. So they're still pretty young. I got to stay fit to kind of keep up with that. So that's kind of what I do. I don't do a lot. I just try and be as smart as I can with the exercising. And I manage through any joint pains I might have. I've had a lot of shoulder issues just because of the structure of my shoulder. And so I can't do dips anymore, which is really tragic, because the last few times I've done dips and I start getting heavy with the dips and then the shoulder goes out. And so I avoid that, but I protect it more from you. Like when I bench, I'm not know if you're familiar with Mark Bell's slingshot. It's kind of an elastic loop. It's almost like a figure 8 that goes around your arms and across your chest as you bench press. So it helps just kind of take some of that stress off of the shoulder joint, off of the, the small muscles in the shoulder, and allows me to kind of lift more so that I can overload the muscle, but not do it in a way that I'm going to hurt myself.
So,
And I just try and do the exercises that are going to be the most effective and give me the most bang for the buck.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying before, it's really important to get to know your own body, and and find an activity or an exercise that you like. If you absolutely hate running, well, don't run. Find something else. You might like swimming or bike riding or whatever that may be. But your strength is really important, but you may not like going to just lifting weights at a gym or machines. Like, I mean, I only really ever use machines if I'm coming back from an injury. They kind of bore me. I really like free weights. I love the challenge of free weights and I suppose the improving of the spatial awareness that you get by using free weights and kettlebells and bands and whatnot, that proprioception that we get. So, just find something that you like. And, I think that's a really, really important. It's one of the best things you can do really for exercise adherence is, and try to enjoy it, embrace it. And even if you don't kind of label exercises and, if you have a program or you have a class or whatever the following morning early, try not to think about it before you go to bed. Just wake up. Just have everything there ready, good to go. Just go and do it because, you and I have probably never really regretted a workout. And I think that's one thing that when people are first starting an exercise program, they really label it, oh, no, I've got to get up early, I've got to go and, it's kind of a change in their routine. It's a new habit that they've formed. But, as soon as you've done the exercise for the day, you're feeling pretty happy, you're feeling pretty proud of yourself, and you got that, that endorphin rush as well. So, but try and find something that you appreciate, that you like, and therefore you'll stick to it.
So how can our viewers and listeners connect with you, learn more about you? You have a website, social media. How can they connect with you?
Yeah, sure. Our website is Active and Ageless. My personal Instagram is Heath Jones 1.618, and our business, our Active and Ageless Instagram is Active and Ageless Gyms. So, I'm always keen to learn from people and hear from people, and if there's anything I can, help to empower, inspire people, more than happy to have a chat as well. And if you're in Australia, come and say good day.
Well, this has been really an enjoyable conversation. It's always so thrilled to just talk with other professionals across the globe and just share ideas of how we can all age well. So just kind of keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate that you are focused on some of us older farts out there, making sure that we're staying healthy and aging well. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep aging well.
Awesome. And likewise. And thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from today's podcast. And until next time, keep aging well.